Hi everybody, today we are going to be studying simple and compound interest. So we're going to start with simple interest. Simple interest is only computed on the original principal and it's most commonly used for very short-term loans. This is not something that you would probably run into if you went to the bank to get a loan, but it is certainly something like if you were going to loan a friend money and you wanted them to pay you some interest back, this is something that you might use for that. So we've got two different interest formulas that we could use. The I equals PRT, just to find the interest. And then we have the accumulated amount, which there are two different versions of that. Both of them are solved for A, like what's the accumulated amount? That's the principal plus the interest, which could be calculated by doing the principal plus PRT, since PRT calculates interest. Or you may also see it factored out where they pull the P, the principal, out and then do 1 plus the rate times the time. So these are just different versions of the same formula. What you need to know is that P stands for the principal, R stands for the interest rate as a decimal. So when we're working with it, we always use decimals for our rates. And where T is the time in years. If you're given anything other than years, you will have to adjust. So let's just jump in and do a few example problems. Number 1 says find the simple interest. So we know we're doing simple and we know we are looking for the interest on a $1,000 investment made for 3 years at an interest rate of 5% per year. Okay, so I always like to go through and mark what I've got. So I know that $1,000 is my principal, that's what I'm investing. 3 years, and that is in years, so that's my time, no adjustment needed. And the rate is 5%, so I'm going to write that down as 0.05 for myself. Since I'm calculating simple interest, I'm going to use the I equals PRT formula. To find I, I'm going to take the principal times the rate, 0.05, times the time, 3. And these are going to get complicated fairly quickly. So I encourage you to use your calculator. I'm not sure why my 0 won't work. Let me pull my calculator up and make it a little smaller. Will it work now? Okay, I need to make it smaller. So I'm going to do 1,000 times 0.05 times 3. So it looks like $150 is the interest on this. Now I know in Newton sometimes they will give you very, very strict instructions. They may say just type in 150 and leave the dollar sign off. So just pay attention for those little specific instructions that they may give you. What is the accumulated amount on the above investment? Find in two different ways. Okay, so we could, since we've already found the interest, we could use this first version, which says A is the principal plus the interest. We know the principal is 1,000, and we now know that the interest is 150, so we could just add that together. So that's one way to find an accumulated amount situation, would be to find the interest and then just add it on to the principal. What if we hadn't already done number 1? What if we didn't know what the interest was yet? Well, in that case, perhaps we could use one of the latter formulas. We could use either P plus PRT, or we could use the P times the quantity, 1 plus RT, either of those, because we do know those other 3 values. So maybe I'm just going to use this one. I'm going to pick this version. I can put 1,000 in for the P. I can put in 0.05 and 3. And I can calculate that way. If I do that, I'm going to get 1,000 times 1 plus 0.05 times 3, and my calculator will do the order of operations correctly. It'll multiply that first, then add. That's 1.15. And if I take 1.15 times 1,000, I get the same answer. So there are multiple ways to find this accumulated amount depending on what information you're given. If you already know the interest, then of course the P plus I is a nice one. If you don't know that, but you have the other values, you can still get there. Okay, let's see. Number 3, a bank deposit paying simple interest. So again, we know this is in this situation, has a rate of 0.05. I'm going to go ahead and say that that's my R. It grew to a sum of $3,100 in 10 months. Find the principal. So in this case, we're looking for the P. What we actually have is that A value. We know the accumulated amount. And we also have a time. We have 10 months, so this is not in years. Anytime you have time given not in years, you're going to have to adjust it. So this is 10 out of 12 months, or 3/5 of a year. Okay, so my formula that I have, the only formula I have with the A in it is that bottom one. And since I've got P's, R's, and T's flying around, I'm going to use this version. Again, I just am picking this version. There's another version you can use if you feel like it. We don't know what P is. We know that A is 3,100. We're looking for P. We know rate is 0.05 and the time is 3/5. So in this case, first I'm going to figure out what is this that's multiplied by the P, and then I'm going to divide it off. So let's see, I've got 1 plus 0.05 times, and then the only way to, in my calculator, I don't have a fancy one. If you can format a fraction, just format a fraction and type in 3/5. I have to do parentheses 3 divided by 5, I believe, because this one isn't quite up to date on that. Okay, so I get 1.03. So to find P, I want to divide that off. So I need to take 3,100 and divide by 1.03. And I've done something incorrectly here. So let me go back and check. 3,100, 1 plus, I think it's, oh, I see what it was. It was, I did my time incorrectly. So those of you who like to catch my mistakes, this is, I don't know why I keep writing that. This is, it reduces, 10 over 12 does not reduce to 3/5, it reduces to 5/6 of a year. So I'm going to go in and fix that. The problem is that this number is wrong. Okay, so I'm going to go back in and fix that. It was P times 1 plus 0.05 times 5/6. So I'm going to divide by whatever that is. So redo. What is 1 plus 0.05 times 5/6? That's better. That doesn't come out perfect. And I know in Newton they're going to ask you a lot to not round until the very end. So a trick, something you can do, see if you can turn this into a fraction by doing the math enter. See if there is a fraction for this, and there is, 25 over 24. So this is 3,100, I'm going to go over here, equals P times 25 over 24. Because now, if I want to divide by 25 over 24, that's the same thing as multiplying by 24 over 25. I can just multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to take 3,100 and I'm going to divide it by well, I can divide or multiply, however you want to do it. I'm going to divide it by 25 over 24, or you can multiply it by 24 over 25. Either way, I get P equals $2,976. Now, the reason why I knew that I had made a mistake this first time was because I got a P value out that was bigger than the A value. A is what it accumulates up to, P is what it starts with. So if you're investing money, your principal better be less than your accumulated amount. Otherwise, you haven't actually accumulated any wealth. So that can be a way you can double check your answers to make sure they just make logical sense, which is that was how I just caught that mistake.